The following is a special presentation of Tony Curry Radio. From hot dogs to cool kitties, this is Darkside of the Pooch.
Welcome back to the dark side of the Pooch. On the left side of the screen is Dr. Reb Stewart from the Rossburg Animal Hospital. I'm Tony Curry. And, of course, if you listen to this on a podcast or listen to it on TKR, you don't know what I'm talking about. But you can go to our brand new YouTube channel, Tony Curry Radio YouTube channel, and watch all of our podcasts and shows now, so it's good. Dr. Reb, you sound a little under the weather. You look good, though. You doing okay, man?
Yeah, getting over a little cold that I had over the weekend.
I understand.
Thankful to have a cold over the weekend and not a cold during the week at work. But I gotta say, over your right shoulder,
yes.
I mean, there's a sticker there,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm wondering if you have more, because I love stickers.
I have plenty of stickers. I'd love to bring some by your office.
Please drop them off.
And if you want a sticker, just email us at info@tonycurryradio.net, and I'll stick one in the mail. He's sitting right next to Johnny Carson. And then on the other side, I put that up just for you today. It is a little lithograph that I picked up about 15, 20 years ago called Like Father, Like Son.
Very good.
Sylvester Puttycat with his son there on his lap. Today
What's the kid's name?
I have no idea.
I don't either.
I have Scratchy. I don't know. Today we're talking about surfing snakes, a pet survey. Could you imagine if President Joe Biden came out with a brand new law that took a particular breed of dog away from people in the United States? Could you imagine that?
I could imagine it.
Because he did. Because it deemed it dangerous. Well, guess what? The Prime Minister over in the UK has just done that. Breaking news here on Dark Side of the Pooch. I'll tell you what the breed is coming up. It may surprise you in just a few minutes. And also, of course, we'll do some mutt mail. Let's jump into that story. In the UK, the Prime Minister has just come out and wants to ban the American dog breed because of a rush of human attacks recently. Recently, half of all UK dog attacks are from this particular breed. Can you name it?
I'm not going to say. Well, I guess I'll just state the obvious: the American Staffordshire Terrier.
The American Bully XL breed. Is that the same thing?
Similar.
Yeah. Okay. Evidently, that dog is responsible for more than half of all UK dog attacks, and has been a huge uptick from 2021 to 2023. We've had this discussion in the show numerous times, and you say there's nothing different about the pit bull breed or any breed of particular dog. It has to do with the owner. I will jump on top of that and say that in most cases, if you want a killer dog or a dog that's a very protective dog, you're going to train it accordingly, and you're probably going to pick an animal that weighs somewhere between 50 and 100 pounds that is all muscle. Am I off there a little bit?
No, I mean, you can train any dog to be aggressive.
Yeah.
And you can train any breed to be gentle and loving. Are some breeds more aggressive than others? I think the answer is yes. I think some are probably just genetically, potentially more aggressive. I think there's a reason that you have certain breeds that are military dogs.
Mm-hmm.
So many breeds have just defining characteristics of behavior. Like, just for example, every Great Dane I have ever looked at in my life is incredibly fearful. They're all terrified.
Really?
And they're one of the biggest breeds that you can get. Maybe not the heaviest, but I mean, as far as height and length of long bones, I mean, they're one of the biggest that you can come by.
But fearful.
And they're incredibly, incredibly fearful of us, veterinary professionals.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there are behavior tendencies in every breed. So I don't want to say that, pit bulls are the safest, they're just as safe as Cavalier King Charles Spaniels. Well, I mean, genetically, they're probably predisposed to be a little more aggressive, but that doesn't mean that you can't train them properly. But if you get a pet that has not been socialized, especially within that really good socialization window of about 6 weeks of age till 12 weeks of age, anything can happen.
Yeah.
I mean, if you have a breed that's not socialized to other dogs and other people within that window, you can have a really aggressive dog no matter what the breed is.
Okay. I'm gonna do a dog word association with you next week. I'm gonna throw out a breed, and I want you to give me one word that has to do with that breed. Is that
That'll
a
be
deal?
fun.
Because I'm
Yeah,
thinking
that's a
German
deal.
shepherds. I'm thinking and maybe we'll do that with some cats too. I don't know if you could come out with different words for cats. We'll get into that. This is Rossbridge Animal Hospital's Darkside the Pooch. Rossbridgevet.org or .com.net, whatever you want to go to. Rossbridge Animal, you'll find it. It's available on all those. 208-0301, 208-0301. The show's always brought to you by Ed's Pet World down there in beautiful in Homewood. They've been open for 50 years. I was just down there 2 days ago. There was a cockatoo. They will watch your pets where I don't know if I should mention this or not, but if you have an exotic pet and you need them to watch your pet because maybe you're going to the hospital or maybe you're going out of town for a couple of days, they will watch your pet. So occasionally you'll go down there and there'll be like a cockatoo down there cussing. They had a cussing cockatoo that day. This thing had the dirtiest mouth I've ever heard. It was fantastic. I love it. It's a family place, but it was fantastic. Check out Ed's Pet World, 879-1331, 879-1331. And coming soon, October 6th, 7th, and 8th, the grand opening of Seth's brand new toy store down there in Homewood. We'll give you some more details on that in just a few minutes. Darkside the Pooch, an Australian man, was fined $1,500 yesterday for taking his python on
Taking his python on the train.
his surfboard. He was surfing with his snake. Evidently, there is a breach of contract for his. But you have to, if you have a snake in Australia, you have to have a license for it.
I mean, don't all men surf with their snake?
What would you think? And also another story out of the UK, and this is kind of interesting, and I want you to expound on this. 2 people caught bacterial infections from their dogs after a rise in imported pets. It's called Brucella canis. Am I saying that right?
Yeah, Brucella.
Okay, what is Brucella canis, and how can people get that from their animals, from their dogs?
Well, it's a bacterial infection that you can get when you come in contact with mouths or feet, wherever that bacteria is.
Kind of serious, isn't it?
It can be.
Yeah.
I have my arrow is like right over your nose, and it
Yeah.
looks like it's going in. I'm gonna have to move this side. It's very distracting. Okay, I got it.
It's my
But
finger.
it's not incredibly common here. Does it say where these dogs were adopted from?
No, it just said there's been a big uptick in imported pets, and I guess what is Brucella canis? Is that what it's called in the dog, or is that
Yeah,
what it?
yeah.
And so it's the
Brucella
same
canis.
thing. So sometimes when you have a zoonotic type of disease, it changes names from the animal to the human. So it's Brucella canis in human beings as well.
Yeah, it's the same. It's the same bacteria. I'm looking some stuff up on it right now.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting because I don't think we ever imagined that we could get any type of disease from our dogs, right? But you can.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, so it's coming in contact from dog to dog. The reason that we don't see it much over here is because it's a lot of times genital stuff. And so when you have pets that are spayed or neutered, you don't really get genital infections, because they're not copulating.
Gotcha.
So that's why you don't really see it. That's why I'll be interested to know where they got these pets from.
And so when you're importing a pet, you're probably not having a spayed or neutered because you probably want to breed it, correct?
I mean, potentially, but a lot of these high-end breeders, they make you spay and neuter them. They don't want you to have puppies because then that eliminates their revenue stream.
Yeah.
So a lot of these high-end breeders, they make you sign a document saying that you will have them spayed or neutered within a certain period of time. So,
but people don't do that.
Yeah, I guess they don't. But yeah, I mean, Brucella is going to be that Brucella canis. It doesn't change names from the depending on the host that it's in. It's the same.
Okay, so what exactly does it do to human beings?
Well, you're asking the wrong person that.
Well,
that's true.
That's true.
I don't know what it does to
so you know what it does to dogs. I don't know why. What the hell I was even thinking of asking you what it would do to a human being. Well, evidently it gives you flu-like symptoms, and evidently you have to use some pretty heavy antibiotics in order.
Well, in dogs and cats, it's all rereproductive stuff. It makes it to where you have like the females will get infections, in their uterus, and make it so that they abort, their babies.
Make sure that if you get your dogs having spayed and neutered, don't get Brucella canis. Don't do that. He's Dr. Rab Stewart. Dr. Rab Stewart, of course, the Rossbridge Animal Hospital, rossbridgevet.com. You can also call him at 208-0301. He's going to share. Didn't you say you were going to share a good story with me today? You said something about sharing a good story last week on the show. I said, you better have a good story. You said you would. I got one more story before we get into some mutt mail. From a site called Pet Study Finds. Had asked 2,000 American family-owned pet owners some questions, and I want to see if you can get these answers. All right.
Okay.
How long does it take for an average pet parent to start missing their pet once they leave the house?
Man.
I'm telling you, I read this, and I'm like, it's just amazing to me. Listen, you know how much I love animals. I've got gerbils, I've got guinea pigs, I've got snakes, I've had goats, I've had chickens, I've got fish, I've got 4 dogs, I've had a cat. I love animals. But this just absolutely blows my mind that this is the average amount of time it takes a pet owner to start missing their animal, like actually missing their animal.
3 hours.
3 hours. Go 37 minutes.
Wow.
37
That's
minutes.
Great.
I mean, it really is. I mean,
what
it's
about
great.
the kids? Can we ask these people that have kids how long it takes them to miss their kids? I would love to see what that number is. Like if it takes you 37,
that's 3 hours.
It might be 3 days.
It could be 3 days. What percentage of pet parents would take a pay cut at work so they could work from home and be with their pets more often?
Okay, what percentage would take a pay cut?
Yeah. So they could work from home so they could be near their pets more.
I mean, I would think a very high percentage of people would take a pay cut to work from home, whether it had something to do with animals or not. So I'm going to say 70%.
40%, 70%. Okay. That's crazy. On average, how many times a day does an average pet owner think about their pet?
10.
13 times. I don't think about sex 13 times a day. I can't imagine thinking about Rainer. Rainer's behind me right now. I mean, you okay, boy?
You just thought about him twice. You just
I
thought
don't know
about
if I think about anything 13 times a day. I guess subliminally, I guess subconsciously, sometimes I'm thinking about my dog and I don't realize it. But I mean, you're asking somebody the question. I mean, if they had tabs on my head or something, like, you could tell exactly how many times I'm thinking about something. I'm probably thinking about a lot of things I probably shouldn't think about that would show up. Finally, how many pet parents use pet cameras?
Is this a percentage question?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
33%.
31%. Very, very good. And 63% of all these people out of 2,000 people that were surveyed said they would do more to take online classes or anything to find out more about the behavioral aspects of their favorite pet.
That might be a revenue stream there for me.
Hey, listen, that's what this show is all about, brother. You get feel free to call us up, info@tonycurryradio.net. You want to advertise on the show, we'll kick it back to Dr. Rab Stewart. rossbridgeanimalhospital.com, also 208-0301. The show is always brought to you by Ed's Pet World down there in beautiful Homewood. And of course, Seth's got a brand new joint opening up October 6th, 7th, and 8th, the grand opening of his brand new pet store. We'll have we're not pet store, it's actually a toy store. We'll have some more details on that as well. All right, let's do some mutt mail. Paula in Hueytown said, I've heard the myth about putting dogs at pounds, and then if the dog's not picked up within a certain period of time, it will be euthanized. She said, is that true? In what pounds do they do that? How long do dogs stay there before they'll be euthanized? Can you I've heard that story, that myth, ever since I was like 3 years old. Well, if you take the dog to the pound and someone doesn't pick him up within a couple of days, they're going to put him down. What's the stories about? What's the difference between pounds and, say, what we have here, the Humane Society, other things?
A lot of shelters are no kill, so they won't kill them no matter how long they're there or no matter what their underlying condition is. If they come in really sick or something, I mean, they won't kill them. Oh man, they won't euthanize them. Let me say that. They won't euthanize them for any other reason that they have a life-threatening, ailment that is incurable. The same reason that we would euthanize a pet if an owner comes in and says, hey, my dog has cancer and it's terminal or whatever, then yeah, we're going to euthanize them. But a lot of shelters are no-kill shelters, so you can always ask them, either if you're dropping a pet off or if you want to adopt a pet from that shelter, and they'll let you know. But I don't really think anyone uses the term pound anymore. I think they're all shelters. So there's not really any You know, just because if something's called a pound, it doesn't mean they're going to euthanize, and if something's called shelter, it doesn't mean they're not going to euthanize. I think almost everything's
Do we
called
have a cat shelter here? I never heard of a cat shelter. Is there
I
cat
don't,
shelters?
I don't think that we have just a. I'm pretty certain we don't have just a specific cat shelter.
Yeah.
There's a lot of rescue groups in town, a bunch of them, and some are canine specific, and some are feline specific, and some will do both.
Yeah.
But I don't think we have specific shelters for dogs and cats. I know that the Greater Birmingham Humane Society does a great job in not euthanizing animals that are healthy.
Shelby County does a good job too.
Yeah. So we got great shelters here.
We have fantastic shelter. We should be very, very blessed. But I mean, we also, it seems to be, and maybe it's because of places like the Rossbridge Animal Hospital, but people are very respectful and very responsible with their pet ownership here in this town. Probably more so than any town I've ever lived in. info@TonyCurryRadio.net, info@TonyCurryRadio.net. Dan in Wichita, Kansas. I think this may be the first time we got an email from Wichita, Kansas. He heard that cutting dogs' hairs or trimming dogs' hairs actually hurts their comfort level. And I've heard that too. I always have Rainer shaved down. Now, I don't do it because he looks better. I do it because he sheds big time during the summertime, and I don't want hair all over the house, and it really helps that. And I do think he's softer and he's cleaner to pet. You don't get big balls of hair whenever you pet him that way. But I've also heard that in the heat, you would think that would cool him off, but it actually works just the opposite. Is that true? And in the wintertime, some people let their hair grow out because they think it's going to keep them warm, but that's not a good idea either. Can you explain?
Well, first of all, if you trim a dog, it's just in some ways it's a lot like us. If you trim the hair really short, so there's different lengths of blades. So if you trim a dog with like a 40 blade, which is what we would use to try to get as much hair off as possible, if we're putting an IV in, or if we're doing surgery somewhere, you want to use a 40 blade so the hair is really, really short, because the hair is going to have bacteria in it and dirt, debris, and it can contaminate your IV or your surgical site. So when you cut hair that short, it's almost like when you shave a part of your body, as it grows back, it itches. And so that's going to lead to a lot of licking and maybe some scratching, and that will lead to infection. And some dogs really are uncomfortable as that hair grows back. Some dogs don't mind at all. So it depends on the dog, and it depends on how short that hair is. Now, your question about long-haired dogs, their long hair does have some cooling properties to it. But if you shave that off, I don't really think that they're gonna suffer that much from getting too hot, because that hair is gonna be gone. I mean, yeah, they may not have that same kind of cooling device, but it's not gonna change things that much. For me, the main thing about cutting a dog's hair is if you cut it too short and it starts to grow back, it's gonna itch. They're gonna lick on it, and they're gonna create a hot spot, which is an infection.
Now, you say it can what now? When it grows
When it grows back,
it grows back. That sounds like almost, it sounds like when you manscape.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah,
It's the exact same thing.
Oh,
It's literally the exact same thing.
I don't want to do that to my dog, man.
Well, some dogs doesn't bother them.
Yeah. We have a follow-up question. Remember the guy who emailed us last week and said that his dog evidently bit one of his children and didn't break the skin, but the wife wanted to get rid of the dog, and he's like, "I'm not getting rid of the dog." And we said he probably needs a marriage counselor. Well, evidently the dog bit again. I think his name was Roger. The dog bit again, and the wife has taken the dog away and taken it to their veterinarian. And then that's all he said. So is that where you take a dog if in fact it bites someone? And second of all, he said the veterinarian's not giving him his dog back. He wants to know if there's any legal ramifications. I'm going to make you a doctor and a lawyer today. Is that something you do if a dog bites? Do you take it to a veterinarian, or do you take it to where do you take a dog if a dog bites and you don't have to
you can take it to a veterinarian to have, well, okay. If someone had called me and said, "Hey, my dog bit a kid or whatever, will you take a look?" I would say, yeah, bring it in. Let's examine it and let's see if there's something wrong with the pet that's making it painful or aggressive. Let's see if there's a medical condition that we could potentially fix.
Mm-hmm.
But I wouldn't have them come in so that we could, take ownership of the dog or house the dog or anything like that. I mean, we would strictly be a resource to try to figure out if there's a medical reason behind what's happening. And but we're not really in a position where we would want to have an aggressive dog here, because we have staff here that
Sure.
don't want to get bit. So it would not be that type of situation where we would house it.
Yeah, and I just say, if you can't get your dog back, get the police involved. I mean,
Yeah.
evidently he's going to the vet. The vet's like, I'm not giving your dog back. I don't know why that would be the situation.
I mean, I guess if the vet's really worried about, what's going to happen, but I would say it's not really the veterinarian's responsibility. I mean, it's the pet owner's responsibility. And I guess if there's any question that the people aren't being safe, then you can get the authorities involved.
There you go. Before we hear an unbelievable story from Dr. Rab Stewart, something that's happened over the last week at the Rossbridge Animal Hospital, because he promised me a story. Darcy in Tallapoosa. It's like, this is a dumb question, Darcy, but it's a great question because it's so just even keel. How do you cut the nails on a dog? No one likes to cut their dog nails. It seems, because we've all cut one too short and they bleed. Tell me how to cut dog nails. I'll cut my kids' toenails in a heartbeat, and I'll cut them too short, and I don't care. But boy, if it comes to my dog, that just seems to be one of the most uncomfortable things to do. By the way, cutting gerbil nails is really hard. It's not easy.
No, because they're even smaller. Cutting dogs and cats' nails is really easy if you have two things. If you have a pet that's willing to have their nails cut, meaning they're not going to flail around or try to bite you or whatever. But also if their nails are clear. Especially, cats, almost all cats have clear nails. They're not going to have, dark black nails. Almost all cats have clear nails. So you cut those just like you would cut your own nail. You look and don't take any of the pink off. You just, take that white off, leave a little bit of the white there before you get to the pink. If you get down to the pink, you get too far down there, it's going to hurt. It's the same way with animals. So cats, really easy. You're not going to cut them too short. Just leave a little bit of that white. The hard part with the cat is sometimes they're not receptive to it. They're not still.
Really?
So that's the issue with the cat.
Yeah.
Dogs are a little more receptive to it, but the problem with dogs is a lot of dogs will have pigmented nails. So, like, for example, a black lab, those nails are going to be black, and you're not going to be able to see where the quick starts. The quick is the blood supply to the nail. So if you cut the nail too short, they're going to bleed. It's going to be painful. It's going to bleed a lot. A pretty steady drip if you cut it a good bit too short. But if you have a dog with the same kind of nails as we have, where they're pink and then white towards the end, that's really easy. Trim them like you trim your own nails. If they're dark colored nails, you just have to, your best guess. Start small. Don't take too much off. If you get one that bleeds, the next one that you clip, just don't clip it so short. If you're going to try to clip your own dog's nails and they're black nails, then go to a pet store and get something called Quick Stop. It's a powder that you just put right on the nail. It'll make it stop bleeding really quickly. And then that way you won't be worried about, no dog is going to bleed out from having their nail trimmed too short, but it's going to make a mess in your house.
Yeah.
It's going to freak you out. You're never going to want to do it again. So I would advise anyone who's going to trim their dog's nails, just go get some Quick Stop, whether you have dark nails or light nails, but especially if you have a dog that has dark nails.
We used to have a cockapoo that had black nails. Did you ever seen a cockapoo with black nails? I thought it was the strangest thing, and she used to paint them. Yeah, she used to paint the dog's nails. That dog was fantastic. All right. I know I put you on the spot here, but we're running out of time. But do you have a good story you can share about something at the Rossbridge Animal Hospital? You always have something weird that's happened over the last 7 days since we did the show.
I don't have anything weird, but I was thinking about just kind of like a PSA for, I think a lot of people don't understand how common renal disease, meaning kidneys, how common that is in pets. It's super common in dogs and cats, but really, really common in cats. And the only way that it can be diagnosed early is with a blood screen, where you're checking for things like BUN and creatinine. There's a couple other markers you can check. I won't really get into those, but and you won't see symptoms of kidney disease until they have advanced kidney disease and they've lost a good percentage of their renal function. So that's why doing a blood test on it is so important. Even the blood test, for the blood test to show any abnormalities, they have to have lost 75% of their kidney function.
Wow.
So just think about that for a minute.
That's
The
crazy.
screening test, before it shows a positive for renal disease, they've already lost 75% of function. So symptoms that you can look for, a lot of times it's excessive drinking and urination. It can be weight loss or just generalized lethargy. It can be vomiting as well. But the routine blood screen on any pet that's 6 years or older, and then doing it every year after that is really important, because there are things that you can do to slow down the progression of that kidney disease. So we've seen a good bit of those cases in the last week or so, and I thought maybe it'd just be something good to mention, because the other thing is when we give a diagnosis like that, people think, oh, okay, well, we've caught it pretty early. It's really hard to catch early, because like I said, you've already lost 75% of function when those kidney values start to go up on the blood work.
Great stuff. There you go. Phone number 205-208-0301. Lots of zeros there. 208-0301. RossBridgeVet.com. RossBridgeVet of course, on Twitter, not to mention, of course, Facebook and all social media posts. Thank you so much, my friend. We'll look forward to seeing you next week. I hope you feel better.
Drop some stickers off.
I will. I'll do it this afternoon. If I can get over that way this afternoon, but I'll drop them off this week for sure.
All right, man.
This has been a special presentation of Tony Curry Radio.